For this week's Starting Line, I'm Sarah Allen. There's been a push in recent years to increase cameras in courtroom proceedings. Currently, the media is allowed to bring cameras into the Minnesota Supreme Court and in certain civil cases in the state if the judge approves. Recommendations before the Minnesota Supreme Court propose allowing cameras to record criminal proceedings after a guilty plea or verdict is entered, if a judge approves it. So sentencing and motions for a new trial could be on camera. Currently, the judge, defense, and prosecution all have to agree to video and audio recording of the post-verdict proceedings, which rarely, if ever, happens. Recommendations before the Supreme Court would also prohibit audio and video of a victim or witness who objects being recorded during criminal court proceedings. The court doesn't have a deadline to act on these recommendations. Representative Jim Knobloch is against expanding coverage of criminal court proceedings. His bill, House File 2210, would prohibit state funds in the upcoming biennium to go to that purpose. Thank you, Representative Knobloch, for talking to us about your bill. Can you explain why you don't want state funds going to expand the use of audio and video in criminal proceedings?
Well, this is a bill that came from a prosecuting attorney up in my area in central Minnesota. And the concern is that, when people are in the courtroom, a lot of times we've got some really sensitive things going on. I mean, people have been the victim of a crime, had a family member that's a victim of the crime. They're in one of the most vulnerable times of their life. And I don't think that we need to have TV cameras rolling that potentially broadcast that very personal moment to millions of people.
Has there been a request made for these state funds to go to audio and video?
I would say there hasn't been a specific request made, but I know that the Supreme Court has, I am understanding, been interested in doing more of this, and the Chief Justice has talked about doing more of this. And so the bill really was a response to a number of people, actually both defense attorneys and prosecuting attorneys, which are together for once kind of on an issue that feel it's just not really in the public interest to have TV cameras in the courtroom like that.
What would you say to somebody who does think it's important for the public to know what's going on in a courtroom?
I would say that the courtrooms are open to the public. Anyone can go in and watch. Of course, we've had artists sketching what's gone on in a courtroom for years. We've had reporters going to courtrooms for years. Certainly they can quote what's going on in the courtroom. They can say what people said.
Where do you see this bill going this legislative session?
Well, at this point, I'm actually really not planning on pushing it this year. I wanted to just kind of have it out there so that judges and others that were maybe considering this knew that there are people in the House that are concerned about this. And it's interesting, this is a bipartisan bill. One of the Democrats, who's a prosecuting attorney in Ramsey County, signed on. Representative Tony Cornish, chair of the Judiciary Finance Committee, signed on. I think we have some pretty high-level support for it if we want to push it, but we're not really looking at pushing it so much right now as just letting people know that there is a lot of opposition to doing this sort of thing, and that if we see movement that it's going to happen, then we're going to run with the bill.
Thank you for your time.
Sure, thank you.
We have updates on a couple of bills we recently featured on Starting Line. Representative Joe Atkins' amendment to the Omnibus Liquor Bill for a ban on the manufacture or sale of powdered alcohol until June 1st, 2016 was accepted. The amendment takes the language of House File 1937 that calls for a year-long ban on powdered alcohol in Minnesota, so regulatory measures and product safety could first be studied. Representative Dean Erdahl offered, then withdrew, an amendment to the Omnibus Education Finance Bill based on his bill, House File 1497, that would require Minnesota students to pass the naturalization test immigrants to the United States are required to take in order to become citizens as a condition of receiving their high school diploma. Coming up next week, we'll look to see if there's any updates on Representative Knobloch's bill or other bills we have featured on Starting Line. And remember, hundreds of bills get introduced every legislative session in Minnesota. All of them first have to cross the starting line.